In the school of life, trauma is your teacher. And on its face, this can sound disconcerting, this can sound even problematic, because framing pain and suffering as some kind of learning mechanism can be seen as almost justifying suffering or justifying negative acts to be placed upon a person. But hear me out for a little bit, just stick with me, bear with me. I believe that I can help you understand why trauma is the greatest teacher, because one, if you really think about life, when are you most motivated? Well, you're most motivated when you have a fire under your ass. And because of this, our souls, our higher selves, have created a certain curriculum to initiate us through traumatic or difficult, challenging events. They don't always have to be traumatic, but obviously trauma is a term that is most widely used nowadays, and so people are very familiar with the concept. Now, with trauma, right? How do you learn from trauma? Well, you understand the lessons that it is meant here to teach you. And also, you use trauma, right, to see what gifts you have been gifted. Because through trauma, it energizes you, it moves you forward, it propels you forward. It is an energetic force that pushes you in a certain direction. And some people wallow in their trauma, or they allow it to take them over or to destroy them, right? You know, the term, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, is not necessarily on its face a fact. It is when you are actually able to learn and at least pursue or perceive that trauma as an initiation, as a learning mechanism. That's why understanding that trauma is your teacher is so important, because you could transform something negative into something maybe not even positive, but something purposeful, meaningful. Trauma always has meaning and purpose behind it if you allow yourself to provide that meaning and purpose. It doesn't say you have to. You can, if you believe that a certain challenging event or a traumatic event was unnecessary, should never happen, was stupid, well, that is your decision, okay? No one can force you to perceive meaning and purpose in something if that is not what you see, because again, this is your life. You are the main character of your own story. However, if you understand that, okay, maybe these difficult, challenging, traumatic events happen to me to teach me something about myself, teach me something about reality, teach me something, or move me out of the place that I was in. That's a lot of times the most likely scenario. Is that what happens is that you're in a certain space and you're stagnant. You're in a certain space and you're stagnant. And you need to move. You need to move forward in some way, shape, or form. And there are certain signals that the universe, your higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, will provide to you to move you forward and say, hey, it's time to move forward. Oh, hey, it's time to get out of where you are right now. It's time to get out of your comfort zone. But your comfort zone is very comfortable. So it can be difficult to motivate ourselves to get out of the space that we're most comfortable in. So what happens is that you get these signals, and they get louder and louder and louder until you register it. So the more desensitized you are, the more lethargic you are, the more comfortable and attached you are to your comfort zone, the more traumatic or painful or difficult the event has to be to trigger action. Because the same things will be coming over and over and over again. The same lessons will be repeated over and over and over again. And usually they get more and more painful. The failures, the lack of learning happening with these events or with these lessons that are being presented will become more and more triggering, more and more stimulating in a painful sense to motivate you. If you just think of it simply, if you get an electric shock and it's at a level 1, you barely feel it, you don't register it. Level 3 or 4, you feel it, but it's not enough to really get you off the couch. It's not enough to motivate you to get out the door and start doing the things you're supposed to be doing to be on the path of your purpose. But eventually you get to 9, 10, 11, 12, etc., up, and up. And then eventually it becomes so difficult that you have no other choice but to move into a different direction, or to get out of your comfort zone, or to develop as a person internally and externally, because those are both kind of the same thing. So seeing your trauma, saying, okay, how is this difficult event? How is it meant to teach me? And also, what was I doing? What was I so comfortable in that I needed that shift, that I needed that change, that abrupt, drastic change in my lifestyle, in my perception, in my energy? Okay? So again, this is not to say that all trauma is good or something. It's just we have to understand what life in general is trying to teach us, the good and the bad. But it's a lot easier to find positive lessons and things that make us feel good, or even things that are kind of negative but not too negative. But it's really, really difficult. We all have this problem. We're humans, right? We all have this problem of finding true meaning and purpose and understanding in the most difficult moments in our lives. But through that process of being able to transmute the energy through those traumatic experiences, being able to look at the most difficult parts of our lives and operate and work through them use that energy to fuel our own personal growth, well, that is where the most growth happens, because that is where the distance is. That suffering that you feel is the distance between you at the moment of the trauma and where you are meant to be. The better version of yourself that's meant to fill that gap. And the more drastic or let's say distinct, foreign might be. Foreign, uncomfortable, right? If your comfort zone is an A and the traumatic event is something that's stimulating something that you could only really process in B, and there's a big distance. Well, that distance, that difference is the trauma, that's the pain, that's the suffering. And through that process of closing that gap, that is personal growth. And eventually you get to a point where you can experience that traumatic event, challenging event in real time and transcend it. Or you can process the energy retroactively and transcend it. It's something on its face that, again, it seems convoluted or it seems unnecessary, but this is the key to growth. If everything was chill, if everything was Teletubbies, if everything was sunshine and rainbows, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't do anything, we wouldn't develop as people, as human beings. And so through that pain, through that suffering, through that traumatic event, we can unlock the most powerful gifts as human beings and help other people heal their own trauma, help other people do the things they need to do in their lives. And it's all a full circle of people going through difficult, challenging events, the hero's journey, coming back better, stronger, more individualized, developed in people, entities at the end of the day. So that's me on my soapbox. Thank you for your time.